Whenever an Android smartphone, Mac, or Windows computer loses official support for their respective operating systems, the technology modification community often finds loopholes to get them to run far newer versions of their operating systems. For example, macOS Sequoia from 2024 has the ability to run on Macs as old as 2008 via OpenCore Legacy Patcher. Furthermore, Lineage OS is a build of Android 13 released in 2022 that can run on phones as old as the Samsung Galaxy S2 from 2011. Additionally, most PCs that can run Windows 10 but not officially 11 can easily be patched onto Windows 11. However, that's not the same case with iOS devices, as the first time an iOS device has run a higher version of iOS than officially supported is the iPod Touch 4th generation being able to run iOS 7 starting in June 2018. 5 years following iOS 7's release, despite only being officially supported until iOS 6. That's because the iPod Touch 4th generation features the same A4 chip as the iPhone 4 that can officially run iOS 7. However, the iPod Touch 4th generation runs iOS 7 very slowly, and this is also tethered and didn't even support Wi-Fi nor Bluetooth for a few years, which is partially an outcome I've never tested it on any of my iPod Touch 4th generations. Next time that an iOS device has been successfully updated to a higher than officially supported version is when iOS 10.3.4 released in July 2019, and people managed to restore it onto their iPhone 5Cs via an iPhone 5 IPSW despite the 5C not supporting 10.3.4. The reason why that's possible is because the iPhone 5 and 5C share nearly identical internal components. More recently, Nick Chan updated the iPad 6th generation to iPadOS 18 earlier this year, despite this only supporting iPadOS 17 officially, and this is also possible because the iPad 6th generation shares nearly identical hardware to the iPad 7th generation that did get iPadOS 18. However, that is all merely old news, so why am I discussing this? Well, yesterday, Nyan Satan on Twitter managed to get iOS 6 running tethered with Wi-Fi and Bluetooth on an iPod Touch 3rd generation, despite only supporting iOS 5 officially. Possible because the iPod Touch 3rd generation shares the same chip and has more RAM than the iPhone 3GS that officially supports iOS 6. I also mentioned that he is working on the untether for iOS 6, even though it's currently tethered now. A lot of you are likely pondering whether I'll test any of these unofficial iOS updates. Although I'm tempted to, I'm unlikely to test them just because I prefer my iOS devices to be running older versions, and lack time these days to test that. But are you stuck that the iPod Touch 3rd generation finally received iOS 6 13 years later? Please comment that down below. As always, thank you all for watching this video. I'm the iTunes Family, and peace out.